Hey everyone. Hey.
Hello.
Hello. One second. Hey Chris, congrats on your stage.
Oh, thanks, Amy. I appreciate it.
You got it. All right, happy Wednesday. I think I got everyone. All right. Here I just saw you. Hello again. You look the same. I don't know if I look the same, but
Me too. Brighter, more awake. So that's me, actually.
Love it. All right. Connie, I got your email. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yep, you got it. You're welcome. All right. Lloyd, I was just thinking about you. So I'm happy you're on. Hello. And David, nice to meet you. Hi, David.
Hey,
Great
how
to
are you?
Good. Great to have you on. Okay. So many great things. All right. Hello, hello, hello. Happy Wednesday. I've been thinking about this one for a while. Closings. And I know we've done hot seats before. If we have time, we'll do it. So we may or may not. But recently I was thinking about this. Well, one, because I'm working on a speech. Well, it's my same speech, but anyway, I've been kind of working on what pieces are going to stay, which ones are tailored, and what's going to change with it all. And so this kind of came to me recently, and I thought this would be a really good thing to review with you all and kind of show you again. There's Amy Dix says one thing. Amy Dix is not the only way to do things. So I like to say that there's multiple ways to do things, but I'll kind of tell you what I've seen over time, a little bit of how I work on my closings and, some of the results that I've gotten out of it. I think there's some common things that speakers do that are not great with closings. And so I want to talk through that as well. So are y'all good with that? We're good with that for today? Hey, okay, cool. All right. So I got my notes here because I always write notes for you guys. I always feel like I'm going to forget something, but when I think of closings, there's a few things I think we need to figure out right out of the gate, which is what is the purpose of your speech? Like, what do you want to leave your audience with, right? So is it to motivate? Is it to inspire? Is it to inform? Is it to persuade them? Is it for them to do something? Like, are you teaching something they need to then take certain steps? So once you kind of identify the purpose, then I think it really helps you to make the decision on your closing. Because without that, you're just kind of leaving it kind of just out there, right? And so we want it to be impactful, we want it to be memorable, and we ultimately want leads from it, right? So we should never walk off a stage and not get something from it. Doesn't matter what kind of stage it is, whether it's virtual, whether it's a media, whether it is live, like there's something that we should be able to get from it. A big piece of that is doing a great job, of course, while you're on stage. So identify like what is your primary reason for your speech. And then I think of a few different things. I think that these are some of the components that you could include in your closing. Okay, certainly there could be a call to action depending on what your speech is about and where you want to take them, right? So what sort of call to action do you want? This is a really good place to insert Talkadot, right? So we've talked about Talkadot. In fact, you guys, I shouldn't even, can I tell you a secret? But you can't hold me to it. But I'm going to tell you, can I tell you a secret though about Talkadot? Yes. Okay. So here's my secret, but you can't hold me to it because it may or may not happen. I don't know. I'm trying to get Errol, I think that's how you pronounce his name, the founder of Talkadot, to come speak to you guys.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah, it'd be really cool. So anyway, I have a call with him tomorrow. But again, secret, Don't hold me to it. But I think we can make something happen there. Anyway, so this is a really good place to insert Takedat. And in the same breath, I'm going to tell you, when we're looking at your closing, we're looking at a section of your speech, not the last sentence, not the not necessarily the very, very last thing. So your entire closing. So if it is something like Takedat or sign up for this course or give me your name or leads or something along those lines, I personally would not put that at the very last thing that you do, because think of it like this. I don't know about y'all, but I do this at restaurants or at the dinner table if something's really delicious. But like, if you ever gone to a restaurant and like the food is just so amazing, like whatever it is, maybe it's that steak or something that's just so amazing. So you have like mashed potatoes, asparagus, let's say, and steak. What do you want your last bite to be?
Steak.
Yeah, the steak, right? Or whatever it is that you love. But yes, the steak. Like, I don't want my last bite to be asparagus. Like, I'll eat it, but that's not really what I want my last bite to be. I want it to be the best thing that's on my plate. So it's the same thing, right? So you don't want to like leave an odd taste in their mouth or have it feel like really salesy or something like that. So I wouldn't put it as the very last thing, but it certainly can be a part of your closing. All right. So it could be other things too. I know I just mentioned Takedat, but it could be other things too. It could be, come visit me if you have a booth. Come visit me in my booth. It could be, I'm going to be signing books. Come see me. I would love to sign your book. You got someone for me to sign it for? I'll sign it for them too. Whatever. So it could be that. It could be your programs. It could be going to a website. It could be some sort of funnel or something that you've got, a landing page or something that you're directing people to. It could be any of those things. But what is your call to action? What is the next step? So maybe that's the question to answer. What is next for my audience? What is next for my audience? And then be sure to roll that into your closing. What do you want your audience to do next? We'll offer that to them, right? Give them that solution. Rob, if you don't know Rob, Rob's my partner in Authority Speakers Agency, and he does this like brilliantly on stage, but he'll say something like this: I can't possibly give you all the information that you need in just 45 minutes. So if you would like to know, if you need more information and more details in order for you to be successful, he publishes books. In publishing your book, I've put together this book publishing pack and it's available to you, blah, 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 by signing up here or whatever. But you can position it that way. I really like the way that he positions it, in the fact of like, look, I gave you a lot of goodness today, but I only have 45 minutes. I can't give everything to you, because it really allows them to know that there's more to what you have to say. There's more to working with you, right? There's more to that beautiful goodness that you are presenting on stage. So that's just one way of doing it, I guess. Some other things that you could integrate in with your closing, of course, a story. I feel like that's natural. Sometimes it's not, though. Sometimes I think speakers they're there to inform and do like a step 1, 2, and 3 or whatever it is. And then they kind of leave them with that, especially if you're more of an informative speaker versus like a motivational speaker. Like, bring us that story to bring us all in. It really creates emotion, which I'm going to talk about here in just a second. You could certainly use humor if you're funny. I'm not funny, so I don't say anything funny on stage. No, I'm just kidding. But you certainly use humor if that works for you. You can also, I love ending with metaphors or symbolisms, because it gives them like something to remember, right? It gives them something to remember to tie it all together. Let's see. Any sort of like inspiration. If you have like an inspirational quote or something, you can tie that into it. So those are some of the things that you could include in your closings. I feel that the most important thing of a closing is making an emotional connection. You just gave so much amazing information. Maybe you inspired, maybe you informed, whatever it is. And hopefully you made those emotional connections along the way. But what I would look at is where in your speech or where in your stories or where in your content do you have the strongest emotional connection or story or content to tell? And I would end with a bang, with an emotional connection. I can tell you how I do it. And I'm not suggesting that everyone does it like this or that everyone has like this type of story. But essentially what I do is along the way, I kind of talk about, let me give you a little context so you can kind of get it. Along the way, I talk about how I started painting and became a professional artist during COVID, essentially, because I had all this time, right? That's what I talk about. I had all this time, didn't know what to do with it. So I started painting, became a professional artist, like very, very shortly, etc. And so like, that's kind of like a constant throughout my talk, is we talk about time and how I had all this time. And then in the end, the big emotional bang that I give is I say something along these lines. I say, but I have a secret to share with you. I fibbed just a little. I told you I started painting because I had all this time. But the reality is I don't paint because I have time. I paint because I don't have time. And then I roll into my story about how I probably will die at a very young age. So that is the deepest emotional connection that I can provide them, right? Now, that's a little bit of a downer. So we bring them back up before we close out the whole thing. And some of you also have stories that might be a little bit of a downer. And I just would tell you, be careful that you don't stay on that level for too long. It's very uncomfortable for the audience. You might be good with it, but they probably are very uncomfortable, right? I'm very okay talking about how I may not live past 60, but I am not saying that most people are good with like sitting with that information. So you got to bring them back up. So I wouldn't close like end on like, just because that's your deep emotional connection. I wouldn't end if it's a downer. Let's see. What else did I write down here? Ask for feedback. And by feedback, I don't mean like, what'd you guys think of the speech? I mean like if they're so how'd I do, y'all? Yeah, exactly. Boo. I mean, like if you have a Q&A, like I'm doing a speech here and I'm just like, I really wish they would take it out, but I've already agreed to it and whatever. But anyway, I'm doing a speech on October 25th and they want a Q&A session. So I have an hour and 15 minutes and y'all know how long an hour and 15 minutes is, right? So anyway, so we're doing a Q&A at the end. And one of the things is if you do a Q&A for like this feedback, like feedback from the audience is what I mean. If you do something like that, I would suggest that you do not end on a Q&A, that you do not end with her. Yeah, because you don't know, it's very unrehearsed, first of all. So you don't know how it's going to go. And if it doesn't go to your favor, I'm not saying it's gonna be terrible, but if somebody says something that like doesn't really make sense, or like y'all have all had that audience member that just like doesn't stop talking, like you ask one question and they have the 20-minute response and you're just like, but trying to butt in. If that's how it ends, that is not the steak. That is the asparagus, right? So ask for feedback in the end, do Q&A in the end, but not end to end, right? Maybe just before your closing or as a part of your closing, but not the last thing. It's very unpredictable. Let's see, what other notes did I write for y'all? Do's and don'ts. Oh, this is great. Okay, I said do align your close with the theme and the tone of your speech. So what do I mean by that? I'll give you an example. In my speech, basically I'm talking about throughout the speech, I relate a bunch of things, but I talk about the 3 pillars of connection, the 3 pillars of happiness: character, connection, and community. That's my 3 pillars of happiness, right? So I'm talking about that, like throughout the whole speech, we're getting given science, like we're doing all these things and people are like, yes, character, connection, community, boom. But then in the end, I reveal what the true pursuit of happiness is, like what truly out of those 3 makes people happy, right? So it builds up to that and it stays along with that whole theme. And that's actually the very, very ending of my speech, is like the reveal. Like they don't even know they're going to get a reveal, right? So it just continues on the whole kind of theme of the speech and the tone of the speech. Mine tends to be very motivational. Yours doesn't have to be. But if I ended on this really like, and that is the true pursuit of happiness, like that's not good for me, right? And so it's like, and that is the true pursuit of happiness, right? So like, however that works for you in your tone that you've delivered the entire time, it would be very odd for me to lower my energy at the end of a speech, because that's just not me, right? Again, I'm giving you examples for me, but you have to decide this for you. What is your tone throughout the speech? What is your theme throughout the speech? And don't leave it, like pull it all together for us. All right, here's my secret. And this comes from about one of the do's of a very successful close. And it comes from when I was an author coach in helping authors write their books. Oftentimes the advice that I gave was, how you open your book is how you should close your book. Same thing with a speech. How you open your speech is similar to how you should close your speech. So maybe you start a story and you create an open loop and then you close that story, right? So maybe you make a really bold statement and then you take that same statement at the end. One of the things I'm going to give you an example, and it's my example because I'm sorry, but I just know my speech better than I know y'all's speech. But so this is how I do it. In the opening, I talk about how happiness, I just lost it for a second. How happiness can be measured, right? So I talk about how we can measure time, but we can't. I don't even talk about that. I talk about how it's difficult to measure happiness. Like what I say is like, I can't give you a number on how happy you are, right? Like, and then I talk about how I really like things that I can measure. Like I really like the fact that I can look at a P&L statement and see the profitability of a company. I really like that I can look at a scale and know how much something weighs or how much I weigh and what the progress is, but I don't have like scales and spreadsheets to show you how happy you are. So I talk about measurement. And then at the end, tying those 2 together, what I say is, I think in something along the lines is like, I think in order to be happy, this isn't exactly right, but I think in order to be happy in life, you have to take what is hard to measure happiness and pit it against what can be measured. Yeah, can be measured time, right? So we pull that back together. So look at your opening and think about how you can tie that back in. They're like, oh yeah, happiness cannot be measured, but when we pit it against what can be measured, right, then I get it. So it's one of my little secrets. It's one of my little tricks. Maybe you're already doing it, but I really like that that solution or that way of doing things. Sometimes with chapters and books, we would do the same thing. Don't. I have a don't on here. Don't end on thank you. Try your hardest. Try your hardest. Because that is the last thing that they remember. So don't end on thank you. Stand. It might be uncomfortable for you, but trust me, it doesn't look uncomfortable for the audience. Stand for the applause. Wait for the applause. I mean, maybe not wait, like accept the applause. That's the other thing about like closings, right? Is we go, oh, da, 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 and I'll give you something on virtual too. So we end and we say thank you, which you're not now going to do, but we say thank you, and then we turn stage right and we walk off, and they're clapping, and you're like, oh yeah, that was so good. No, stand and land and accept that applause. By the way, a lot of times those turn into standing ovations that you wouldn't have otherwise gotten if you just kind of walked right off stage, right? So steak. For virtual, here, one of the things for virtual is that we tend to like rush off, and oftentimes there is a Q&A for virtual at the end, which I, again, don't really recommend. Like, make sure that you get it, you know, ahead of time. But a lot of times there's comments. So, I mean, accept those comments, like let them come in, let that like praise come in, instead of being like, well, that's all I got. Jim, back to you. Right? So just accept that. Like, you killed it. Put in a lot of work for that. Accept it. Take it. The last thing that I have for the do's is do rehearse. May seem obvious. Sometimes I see speakers where like they're really good in the beginning and they kind of lose their way at the end. And it's not because it's not great. It's because when we rehearse from beginning to end. So we've rehearsed the beginning, da, 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 and sometimes run out of time or whatever, and the end doesn't get rehearsed as much as the beginning. So make sure you land the ending, land the closing, know it, script it out, say it out loud. Here's a trick that I use, and sorry if this is a repeat, I might have said this on previous coaching calls, but one of the little tricks that I use to help memorize is I first of all, I script my whole speech. And then what I do is like, I'll stand in here, stand up, don't sit down, but I'll stand in here. I'll put record on my phone and I will deliver this thing. I will read it and I will deliver it and I will act it out, and I'll do what I normally would do to hear what I want it to sound like. So I'm given like 110% during that rehearsal, where really I'm just reading the whole thing, but I'm not going to forget anything. Then what I do is I listen to that over and over and over again, because then when you're on stage, you can hear what's next. Yeah. Cool. Looks like Freddie does the same thing. Yeah. I love that. So that's my little trick. You can do it. You can use it, or you, but certainly rehearse the closing. Okay. Let's see. I have a couple of other things. I think these are a little bit one-offs that I wrote down. But if you have some sort of call to action or something along those lines, one of the things that I tell speakers is like, what is the most valuable thing and I don't mean like dollar wise, like, oh, I've got this $10,000 course. No, what is the most valuable thing that you can give away? Like, what is the highest perceived value that you can comfortably give the audience that has a really high value to them, but a low cost for you to deliver? And just kind of think that through a little bit. Sometimes I would say if they're not excited about it, you're not going to get the information, right? So, one other thing I would tie into that, I think, is if you're doing something like that, like giving something away, if it's not tangible, it needs to be shortly, like consumed very quickly. So for example, giving away a book is actually high perceived value, but that's tangible. It's going to take them forever to read it, of course, right? But it's tangible. So it's got a high perceived value. Probably doesn't cost you more than $5, but it's got a high perceived value. To give away an ebook of your book, that's not quickly consumed, and there's nothing tangible for them to like touch and feel. So the chances of them like being super excited about that probably are a little low. So just think about like what value, what is the highest perceived value that you can provide that's a low cost to you, and if it's not tangible, that can be consumed very, very quickly. The other thing is to create some sort of urgency. It doesn't have to be a sales pitch like, oh my gosh, we're only taking 2 from this audience. It doesn't have to be like a hard sell urgency. Even if you're using Talkadot, you could say something like, this link is coming down. When I give it the hotel room, this link is coming down. So, take a picture of it now, make sure you click on it, so you've got the web page open. It's as easy as that, right? Just give them a reason to act in that moment. Let's see, what else do I have? I already kind of said that. And I already kind of said that too. Okay, so those are my thoughts on memorable closings. You absolutely need a way to get stage side leads though. It is like the sustainability of a speaking business, right? So there's a lot of things that you can get to grow your speaking business, a lot, from any kind of speaking engagement. And you need to get those, and you need to grow those, and that needs to continue to build your speaking engagement. When you have like a captive audience, you need a way to grab those stage side leads. So, I mean, I'm going to recommend Talkadot just because I think it's the best in the industry. It's the only thing in the industry that allows you to do it, that really understands like the speaker in mind. So integrate that. If you're not using that, and I can throw that in here, but if you're not using that, you really should find a way to integrate that in. All right, good. Makes sense.
Amy, and from a Talkadot standpoint too, if I may, they're very good at, they've got some great scripts that they've already developed so that you can, I use their script basically and just tailor it to mine. So it's right there in the closing.
Cool. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Thanks. Anyone else using Talkadot, just out of curiosity? Can you spell that? What, Talkadot? Yeah, here. Talkadot.com.
What is it?
What does it do?
Yeah, we had an entire coaching call on it a while back. So let me yeah, okay, I will. But I'm also going to direct you to that because it goes through it like shows you the whole thing. So Talkadot, what it does essentially, Jim and everyone else, is it's a QR code that people tap on, right? And you can do a few different things. You can get feedback on your speech. So it automatically asks certain questions like how engaging was this, session? And you can customize it as well. So you get immediate feedback. That's number one. Number two, it's why I like it so much is like, it's built really to continue to be past your speaking engagement in 2 ways. One, to capture stage side leads, because it asks questions like, do you hire speakers? If so, do you have an event in mind? It's like so brilliant, it's like, oh, duh, this is the question we've always wanted to be asking for like the last 10 years. And I don't know, it just took someone to invent it and make it easy. And then it also provides data that you can use. Like we have Chris's Talkadot visuals that say like 100% of the audience felt like Chris was engaging. 100%, I don't know what all the things are, right? But 100% of the audience says they want to hear Chris speak again or whatever. So now when we talk about building your speaking business, right? So now we actually use that in Chris's follow-ups. In fact, we might've used it in the last one that got you the last one. I'm not sure, I'll have to go back and look. But so we use that in his follow-up so the event planner knows that Chris is amazing. they know that he did, an amazing job. One of the things, again, apologies, because there's some things that I say a lot over and over again. But one of the things, if you think about it from an event planning perspective, and I used to own an event planning company, so this is where it comes from, is as an event planner, your job is on the line. Whether you're an internal event planner or you're a third party event planner, right? So your job is on the line to get that event again next year or to stay employed. So part of what they need to know is that they're not making a giant mistake in placing certain speakers on the stage. Like they just need this like warm feeling that when they hire Jim, he's going to go out there and crush it on stage, because that's what his marketing material said he was going to do. Right. So it provides that information.
And
Yeah.
Amy, if I could add one more thing, the other thing it does is if you want to have a free gift at that time, it'll literally, you can have your free gift on there. Like if you want to share your slides or your top 10 big ideas for whatever, when they fill out the survey and they give you their email, they can automatically download a PDF with your free gift.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I think Stacy was just blown away.
So good.
It's so good, right?
I think
I
it's
would
the
be
best.
the one like, I can get the slides because I'm one's like, take them.
It's funny. I emceed some events, I don't know, a few weeks ago at this point. But anyway, there's this guy. I don't want to say who it was for, because it was a lot. It was for a company, and it was just like charts of information that these people actually needed, but they could get it, in other ways. But anyway, so like these poor people, this guy had 160 slides of charts and tables. And so these poor people are like taking these pictures after pictures after picture after picture. And like the first event, I did like 5 events for them. It was all the same. It was like a road show. And so the first event, I was like, can they get this information somewhere else? Like, do they have to take pictures? Right. And this lady was like, who worked for them, was like, oh, it's in their whatever client portal. I don't remember what they called it, but anyway, client portal. And I was like, great. So then when I went on stage after he spoke to transition, I was like, yo, I saw so many cameras out, and I don't know about you, but I don't have 20/20 vision. And as much as I scroll on that thing, sometimes I just cannot read it on a phone. So if you want that information, all of these slides will be available in your client portal, whatever. So then from then on, every other event, we announced that before he actually went on, because people are like that. Stacy, like I'm like that too. I'm like, oh, that's a good one. Yeah, Chris.
Well, and I use that to pre-frame Talkadot. So when I'm giving my talk and I see people bring out their cameras, I'll say, hey guys, if you really like those slides, I'm going to have a way for you to get those at the end of my talk. And then when I present Talkadot, I say, hey, and this is your place where I'm going to give you as a free gift my slides. So I kind of plant the seed for them to do the survey at the end, because they're going to get my slides.
Perfect. So good.
So good. So that gives me this idea. I'm stealing from you, Chris, on that idea. I'm just going to expand on it. Is you should intentionally have something that's so good that somebody wants to take a picture of.
Yeah.
Like you should integrate that into your speech if you know you're going to use Talkadot or something similar. But yes, like
So good.
purposely have that so that you know that that's what they want to take a picture of. So good.
Cool.
So good. All right. Any other questions on closings? Do you want a hot seat? Does anyone have a closing?
Hey,
They want
Amy,
to-
you mentioned don't say thank you at the end.
Oh yeah.
What do you say? How do you end to signal I'm done? So that there isn't a long awkward pause of, well, is he going to say anything else or
Yeah.
not? And nobody wants to start the applause. What's the substitute?
Yeah. You should write a closing that's so obvious, right? That they know. So do you happen to have yours, Mark, that you want to share or no?
Oh, I don't right off the top of my head.
Okay.
And maybe that's it. Maybe I haven't cracked the code on what is so obvious
Yeah.
that it does close that out. So I'd love to hear some examples.
I mean, you could even say it. Like, you could even say, like, I don't know that I would say in closing, but like, you could even say, like, as you all roll into the next session, as you can see, connection is the true pursuit of happiness. And like, oh, you couldn't see my whole body, but like, if I step away, can you guys still hear me? Let me move my mic. Like, I could still like, I think you could, I do, whatever. Like, use your body, is the true, and you could say like, is the true pursuit of happiness. So you can use those cues in order to do that.
You
Okay,
can
thank you.
also say, give yourself a hand. Like if you want sound, like I like
Good.
sound. So I
Yes.
would say, give yourself a hand for listening to that big old long,
Yeah.
you know, whatever, like what an awesome audience, you know?
Love that. Love
Give
that.
yourself a hand for bringing the energy or for staying awake or for putting your camera down or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yes, I wouldn't say for staying awake because that makes you feel like yours is really boring.
That was bad.
So
I'm
be
sorry.
careful of that. But yes, when I teach, when I teach painting, sometimes we'll do like happiness and painting anyway, which is a whole nother thing called create happy. But I'm so happy you said that. One of the things that I say is at the beginning, I say, who all here thinks that they're an artist? Who all here thinks that they're not an artist, right? So beginning. And then at the end, I say,
Yeah.
congratulations, give yourselves a round of applause. You all are officially artists for the day. You know, so
I
tying
would want to stand up. I would stand up.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. So move yourself from fear to freedom.
Oh
Oh,
my God.
that sounds
I have to
awesome.
go.
Yeah.
I'm so glad.
Marshall, I love what you just said. Is that your closing or you're just
Here's
saying?
my closing. You nailed it. Right there.
Yeah. Okay. You want to say it how you would say it.
What do you mean? You want me
So
to?
move yourself from fear to freedom. I mean, I will see you on this. I want to hear you say it. How do you say it?
So move yourself from fear to freedom, and I will see you on the other side.
Love it. Love it.
That's my closing. And
That's so good. I mean,
it works. It works really good. And everybody's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go somewhere." Okay.
It's an obvious closing. Yes, that's so good. Can
I talk about how I got started. I introduced myself by volunteering in the jail, and it was suggested to me by a friend named Dan Murphy. And then I go in, and at the end, so Dan Murphy is mentioned at the beginning as an influencer for me. And then I tell the story at the end, how I met him at a dinner one night, and I told him what I was intending to do. There's a whole backstory. I said, Dan, I finally figured out what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my guitar to old folks' homes and entertain. And he looked at me and he said, Jim, there's more for you. He said, there's more for me. There's more for you.
That's good. That's good. There's more for me. There's more for you. I was trying to think of where the pause is there. That's really good. I felt that and I actually got the goosebumps. So well done. If I get the goosebumps, then, you know, then I really feel things.
I get him too.
Anyone else have their closing that they want to say?
I never did that. I just thought of it at today's session.
Oh, well, there you go. Write it
Yeah,
down.
yeah,
Write
yeah,
it
I did.
down.
It's-
Keep it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was gonna say the last thing I normally say because I'm always talking about winning, and my big thing is make every day a Wednesday. So I pretty much end with kind of like a little spoken word piece, and I'll always say, climb the hump and make each and every day of your lives a Wednesday. You know, WINSDAY.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love
That's my
that.
time or whatever. Yeah.
I think that's so, and that sounds so obvious to me that it's the end. Yeah. Love it. You could even start, jump on from Stacy's comment too. Like instead of telling them to clap, I don't know. This is like, if they don't get that, make today a Wednesday, like you almost clap for them or clap to them, right? And then they'll start clapping. Of course, that's never happened to you, Freddie. They always clap.
Well, I
Everybody
probably will
around
say
them.
something, climb and make every day win. That's my time. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
something like, would that come across as as a thank you? If I say that's my time, is that kind of the same as thank you?
Oh, you say, and that's my time. Like I'm
Yeah.
out of time.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wouldn't do it. It's not necessary.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd leave it out. I'd
Gotcha.
leave it out.
My problem is I suffer from the disease of impatience.
You do?
And it's like, okay, you get it? This is the end. Start clapping now.
Oh, I see. Yeah. It's so
And so I want to say
uncomfortable.
something to
You
get
got,
it going. I need to
uh-huh,
stand still and shut up.
uh-huh,
Not only
uh-huh.
am I a president, but I'm also a client. Yeah, I'm impatient too, man. It's okay.
Yep. I mean, I get it. It's human nature. It's uncomfortable, but I promise you the pause for you is so much longer than the pause for them.
No, and I totally agree with you, Amy. Just so you know, I'm not pushing back on that at all.
I know,
totally agree.
I know. I think
Don't
it's
say
funny.
thank you at the end. I just hadn't gotten my brain around what to say instead.
Yeah.
So this is very helpful. Good discussion. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, you got it. One of the things that you can do, Mark, is if you want to craft it or write it out or script it out or whatever, is then attend one of the support coaching calls and go through it with Dave or Michelle and see, get some feedback on it if you want. Okay. Connie, in closing, life is lived by choice. Life is lived choice by choice. Ooh, I could have so much fun with that.
Have Connie read it.
Yeah, good call. Connie. You got to unmute yourself, Connie.
I'm saying I'd like to, but I'm actually in a bookstore in a public setting.
Wait, what?
I'm in a bookstore in a
Oh,
private set, in a kind of a quiet setting.
got it. Okay. So in other words, you don't want to stand up and give your whole closing. Do you want to read it or you want me to read it?
Go ahead.
Okay. You able to read it? Okay. I'm going to just do this off the cuff and see how this lands. In closing, you might not need to say that, by the way.
And I preface it with a very, very emotionally charged story that people will definitely remember.
Got it. Okay. So, you may or may not need to say, in closing, I don't know. You can transition because I said you could, but if you don't have to, don't. Okay. So anyway, life is lived choice. God, I would do this. Choice by choice by choice. I hope you choose to dream on and take action. Don't give up on your dreams because the alarm clock of your life hasn't gone off yet. If I can do it, so can you. Something like that. Thanks. But anyway, anyway, that's one way to deliver it. Again, you didn't see my body. Let me show you. I almost feel like my dance days where I can't remember what we call it. Anyone a cheerleader or a dancer on here? No. Anyway, there's like this, Jim, you were?
No.
We do this. Like, this is like your neutral position or what. This is like your starting position. Anyway, I kind of feel like it's the same way. Like you end and you're here and then it's like your dance move. You don't have to make it that dramatic, but that's kind of what it feels like when I'm doing it. So, okay. Bye, everyone. Have to go to work. Thank you, Amy, and everyone for sharing. No problem. All right. Any other questions when it comes to closing, or does anyone else want to test theirs? All right, y'all. Love and appreciate you. Happy Wednesday. Don't share my secret just yet. We'll see if we can't get him on. I'm also going to have Rob come on here in a couple of weeks to talk to you guys about social media and how he utilized his social media without like spending millions of dollars on social media, and what he did there with some shorts and some reels. So he's going to come on and do that in a couple of weeks, I think. So anyway, so we've got that coming up. And I have a couple of other dynamic folks that we'll see if we can't get them on. Otherwise, have a great week and we'll see you next Wednesday. See you guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.